This is Harry Forbes from ARC Advisory Group. I'm meeting with John Kirkman, Managing Director of Enterprise Transformation Partners. John is in the ERNI Lab in Perth, Western Australia. John, thank you for appearing with us today.
Cheers, Harry. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
John, could you show us the ERNI Lab is involved in a lot of open process automation and other advanced interoperability work. Could you just take folks around the lab for a second and show them what you're doing there?
Yeah, not a problem, Harry. Right now, I'm sitting in the Perth lab. We have two locations, one at the University of Western Australia on their campus, and we've got one here in Perth in the city, which is central and close to all our mining and oil and gas customers, as well as a lot of the vendors that we work with on interoperability work. So right now I'm in the Perth City Lab, and I'm sitting in the multi-purpose or mixed purpose area that's set up as a theaterette, often for presentations and demonstrations, when we showcase the work and successes that we've had. But also predominantly we use this for workshops and those type of things with our customers and vendors as we work through various research projects and proof of concept. So I'll just show you around a little bit so you can sort of get a feel for where we are, and then I can take you through and answer any other questions you might have. So here we've got the multi-purpose area. So right now it's set up for a workshop sort of scenario. So we've got whiteboards all around. We've got a few posters up there for a project we're running at the moment with a few mining customers and vendors. Right here we've got one of three comms rooms that we have. So there's not too much equipment in the moment, but we'll be seeking to fill this up with a lot of OPAS related technologies over the next few months and start running some proof of concepts and projects around that. Just take you through. This is where a lot of the staff and researchers sit day to day and do their work. So we'll just walk through here. We're now heading out to the front. As you can see, hopefully we're right on the main street of Perth in the CBD, St George's Terrace. So very well located, makes for easy access for all of our project partners and customers to come in. And this is just the entry area here. There's a few meeting rooms and that sort of thing around. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a good understanding of where we're sitting and the type of facility our lab is. Obviously doing research, we're always having technology come in and out. And we do a lot of work around software. So there's a lot of cloud hosting and that type of thing as well.
Okay, well, let's just sit down and kind of go through all about this lab. Turkey, who are the sponsors? Can you tell me that?
Yeah, so, yep. Number of sponsors. So probably the best way to sort of give some context to the lab is the Australian government in 2016 recognised the importance of Industry 4.0, probably on two major fronts. To help our industry, manufacturing, oil and gas and mining, which are quite large industries in Australia, to make sure that we kept up with the evolutions in technologies and the operating models that would come off the back of Industry 4.0 and everything to do with that. But also, obviously technology is an ever-growing industry as well. We want to make sure that Australia was set up to participate in Industry 4.0 from a technology perspective as well and facilitate that. So hence they signed an agreement with the German government around collaboration on Industry 4.0 in 2016. And under the Department of Innovation, Science, Energy and Resources, they established a program called the Industry 4.0 Test Lab program and provided grants to sponsor the establishment of Industry 4.0 test labs at universities around Australia. So that was a major driving force, the federal government, behind the establishment of the labs. But in terms of other sponsors, we were required to have, industry sponsors as well. So we had three mining companies that jumped on board early in the sponsorship, Fortescue Metals Group, South 32 and Goldfields Australia, and also the University of Western Australia and ETP contributed to the startup of the test labs. And we've had two more sponsors as well. NERA, the National Energy Resources Australia, which focus on growth in energy sector, and also Mets Ignited, which follow on that focus on innovation and growth in the mining equipment technology services sector as well. So they're our founding sponsors and really helped the establishment of the lab and get the lab operational.
Okay, and besides the open group and your open process automation forum work, what other organizations are you collaborating with in the standards development area?
Yeah, so prior to us getting involved in the open process automation standards a little while ago, we did a fair bit of work with ISA, ANSI ISA, and particularly on ISA 95, the Operations Management Interoperability Standards, IE 62264. So we've been long participating in that, as well as with MESA in terms of the XML implementation of ISA 95. Through our network with the Platform Industry 4.0, we're also going to be working with Standards Council Industry 4.0 to make sure that our work can filter through to the greater Industry 4.0 in a formal way, and we'll do that via Standards Australia.
Okay, can you summarize what the overall purpose of the lab is in terms of the overall objectives?
Yeah. So the objectives of the lab is to basically be a catalyst and facilitate the adoption of Industry 4.0 technologies and operating models within primarily the energy and resources sector within Australia. And that's primarily because of our location in Western Australia. They're our biggest industries. Manufacturing is not quite as big an industry in our region of Australia. But as you know, Harry, these standards that are coming out in terms of process control and operations management are more about physical goods value chains, where the one standard supports multiple industries. So a lot of the work we do can be adopted into the manufacturing industries within Australia. And we really focus on interoperability and unlocking value there. So our vision is to basically enable our end users to understand what an interoperable paradigm looks like and how to get there, because it's not something that they've had available to them to date, and how to maneuver through that and educate the end users and the internal solution architects and technology teams, but then also hand in hand work with their vendors and internal technology development teams to enable them to enhance their software or build it to be compliant with those interoperability standards. By enabling that and making that happen probably faster than it would otherwise, we should be able to see benefits in our business, in our industry, in terms of operational performance improvements and those sort of things. So that's our goal.
Well, what about specific industries? Obviously, mining's very big there, but what kind of applications are you working on? Can you give us a feel?
Yeah, so from I suppose, a functional model, I can't help but talk about the interoperability side of things. Obviously, it's my day-to-day. But it's really all the processes and software that sit in the operational management, manufacturing operations management band. So your scheduling, your resource management, definition management, materials tracking. So all that sort of MES layer or operations management layer. And then obviously through OPAS in the process control layer. So we see interoperability. We see all those functions that currently exist in a business continuing to exist, and Industry 4.0 is just enabling modular best-in-breed technologies that support those processes to communicate in real time, to sort of automate the information exchange and improve the operational responsiveness to what's happening on the ground or what's happening in the market. So if we're looking to use some of the terminology that's probably more readily out there today, digital twins and those type of things all support those type of functions. They're just sort of different ways to, observe the information and deal with it at scale.
Okay, what about the teams that you have? Can you profile kind of the organization, the teams that are in place now, where they're from, and what they're doing?
Yeah, no, not a problem. So it's a blended team. We have a very strong presence in terms of coming from, the IT world. In anything to do with sort of IT application architecture, enterprise architecture, and interoperability at that level. So we're obviously quite happy to see what's happening in OPAS with orchestration and adopting some of those sort of concepts that come out of the IT world that are definitely adding benefit in those type of systems. So we have a very strong sort of origin in that capability. We've also got process control engineers in the team, and then we have people that have experts in industry in terms of mining and oil and gas and LNG. So along with that, we have University of Western Australia that owns this lab that we operate, and they provide in students and professors and researchers to support various initiatives that they want to look at. So, and I can talk to you a little bit about those a bit later.
Okay. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. Where do you see the research going in the next year or two? What are the specific things you're looking at? What are your key objectives?
So right now, some of the projects we've been running over the last 12 months or so are coming to fruition to end. So we'll be publishing a bunch of case studies around. We've basically done some field testing, some lab testing, actual production rollouts of the latest version of ISO 95, which was updated late 2018, early 2019, and BTML version 7, which came out just this year. But because we've been working on those schemas and those standards, we're able to sort of get a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of testing those out and adopting. So we've had some quite a lot of success with that. We're producing some case studies this year that will hopefully foster some further market uptake in that area. One of the other things is we work with a research project called the Future Energy Exports CRC. It's a cooperative research centre. That's a 7-year project where they're looking at energy exports and how do we improve our capability here in Australia. So one of their projects is building a miniature LNG train here in Perth, and we'll be looking to set up the process control for that off a OPAS-based architecture. So that'll be running a real small-scale LNG facility. And what we're also going to do there is we're looking at what we're referring to as an operational digital twin that's really focused on the material flowing through that plant and the physics and the material behaviour, looking to reduce issues of build-up of frozen material in the pipelines and in the process, so we can avoid having to close down plants to heat them back up and get them running again. So some pretty sophisticated types of digital twins that will be leveraging and feeding all with information that's based on the Industry 4.0 OPAS interoperability standards.
So what happens to the results of this research, Kirky? Where does it go, and how could who has access to it, and how could outsiders like me keep up with what you're doing there?
Yeah, so we've just started to produce case studies out of our first major project. So they will be available via our website. We'll be posting case studies up there that anyone can see those case studies to a certain level of detail. Obviously, because we're involved in interoperability, we don't get involved in the IP a lot of the time that sits inside any one application. So we're really just trying to help enable, companies that are experts in building software for a specific domain to be able to have their software work in a bigger architecture out of the box. So a lot of the time, the results of the research actually leave with the vendors and the technology participants that go out there and then productize what they've learned and built and showcased in the lab. So, but in those case studies, we mention all the project partners and technology partners, and then go from there. And the other thing is that we are available to provide services to vendors and users all the time to pass on that knowledge and what we've learned through those case studies. So it's a pretty open sort of book process for us.
Okay. Well, hey, Kirky, I appreciate so much you taking time to be with us, and we look forward to having you participate in the panel discussion that's to follow this session.
Yeah, not a problem, Harry. Thanks for having us, and it was great talking to you, and good to see you again.
Nice to see you, pal. We'll see you in a few minutes in the panel session.
Too easy, mate. We'll still need to get down here to one of the big mines one day.
It's a deal. Okay.
See ya.